You're laughing
You're like,
already. Fucking hell.
it's a funny one. It's
Reading
a
your own
funny one.
joke out to yourself.
Right, here we go. Here we go. Did you know that Spider-Man has a winter jacket made entirely of Mediterranean flatbread? It's a Pitta Parker.
My God. Oh, come on. Do you know what? I've got people telling me bad jokes now. It's
So
fucking
have I.
brilliant. It's
Again,
brilliant.
yeah, please keep sending us your bad jokes.
Yeah.
We'll try and read some more out in the future for sure. What's been going on tonight? We're late this week. We're a day late right now.
We are a day late in dropping the show, but for good reason. And I want to credit the last few weeks, Mitch. You've really taken on the mantle of the show yourself because I have been so sick. It's unreal.
You have been. I chatted to you for like 5 minutes, and it was pretty horrendous, to be honest. It was like chatting to the elephant man.
I mean, most of my chats with you feel like that to me, but in this instance, I was very, very sick. So bronchitis, followed by flu, followed by 101 other things. But look what somebody sent me to make me feel better.
Oh, bit of iron brew.
Somebody got
Don't get a lot of that in New York.
somebody got me an iron brew. Yeah, do you know what? This is the first iron brew I've had in about 6 years.
Mate, I remember seeing like actually when you find them in America as well, they're not like about £3 a can or something
And the
ridiculous.
rest, and the
Yeah,
rest. I gave somebody uh, £2 something for a bar of dairy milk the other day that
wow.
said on it like it was 50 pence. Like it said on the wrap or whatever the price was in the UK. And I paid like 5 times the value. But that just goes to show I'm like a mad junkie.
Is that the biggest thing that you miss being in the US is iron brew?
No, I actually don't like iron brew. I hate to say it. I've stopped. I used to drink so much soda, like so much. This is how ridiculous it was. Like I'd say to people, "I'm going down. I need to go to the shop. Like I need to go and get some juice. Like to go and get like a can of like Coke or something like
Yeah.
that." And they'd be like, "That's not juice. Like juice comes from a fruit. Like what are you talking about?" And it's like, the West Coast in me just hadn't got out there yet. So. I just stopped drinking all of it. Like I don't had Coke, I've not had anything in a long time. This is the first iron brew I've had in 6 years. This is probably the first soda I've had in about 2 years, and I'm not liking it. I don't. I just. I.
Do you know one of the things that I miss about the US is those it's like the flavored waters. Like, the one I used to get was Le Croix all the time.
Oh,
Used to have
oh
like
yeah,
the fridge packed with that.
that's all I drink. Not
Yeah.
that brand, but like just flavor seltzer.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Seltzer.
Whole Foods make it just like club
What?
soda.
Oh.
Like sparkling water, but Whole Foods make them and they do them. They've got a black cherry one that tastes like Dr. Pepper
Ooh, hello.
without the sugar, so without all the crap and all the stuff that makes you feel. Bleh.
But chocolate, you must be missing chocolate because your chocolate
They,
in the US is shite. No
I don't.
offense to anyone listening from the US, but your chocolate is pish.
It is garbage. I eat Lindt chocolate, and then I eat if I can find it, and I do pay for it through the nose. Dairy milk from Canada, so I actually get it brought in because the dairy milk that they license here is not right. And actually, funny enough, I know what you're talking about with the American chocolate. You know, like Hershey's chocolate,
Yeah, it's fucking
right?
mean.
Well, I'll tell you why.
Dude, I love the
He
suspense there, the way
no,
you just kept me hanging.
no, I
I'll
was
tell
just
you
waiting.
why. And then you drunk
It
your
took
cup of
us
tea.
yeah, exactly my coffee. I was like, I'll tell you why. So it's because they use milk, real milk. So I think we use like milk powder and different things when we're making chocolate in the UK. And in
Oh.
Hershey's, they use actual milk and it goes sour. And that's why it smells like baby sick. And they actually have a chemical compound that they have to put into the chocolate to defeat that smell of baby sick from their milk. And when
Huh.
you go to the factory, they'll talk about it like all the people that work there talk about it like they know what's going on. So when you need to get somebody in from Hershey's to talk about their baby sick chocolate, but basically that's what it smells. It's always smelled and it tastes like that to me. It tastes like crap, like funky sour milk. And I'm
I
like,
don't know about getting in someone from Hershey's, but I think a chocolatier that's worked with whiskey would be cool.
oh, that's a
You
good
know, that's
idea.
yeah, that's always a nice one because you and I have done that before. Worked with chocolatiers and paired up some chocolates to different whiskies that we've been tasting, which always works really well.
We
So,
have.
welcome to Not Another Chocolate podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I know. Folk like that. What am I
Right,
tuning into here?
dude, but what else? I take it you just been on the mend, not been up to much apart from that.
Honestly, I've really not. I start back traveling on today is Monday, so we're late for the podcast. So this will go out today. And then on Wednesday, I fly out to Minnesota. So I'm flying to Minneapolis.
Minnesota. How
Yeah.
do they
Well,
talk? Do your Minnesotan accent? I know you got good accents from
I
the
don't
US.
really. Oh, that's a tricky one because it's so far north. It's kind of
Is
Canada,
it like
eh?
that Fargo?
It is like Fargo.
Yeah,
Aye, it's a little
yeah.
sing-songy. It's not the people there are lovely, and if you're a Prince fan, then you'll know that that's where Prince's studio is as well. So it's nice.
Well, while you were sick, mate, I was sending you some pretty amazing pictures from my wee trip to Spain. Went to
So I
Jerez.
saw.
That
I
was
know.
nice. Yeah, dude. Basically took 2 weeks off, so it was pretty intense for the travel. Though we went to Taymouth first off, amazing places. We had this amazing house right on Loch Tay, and had his own hot tub. Then we went over to Arran. Then we eventually made it over to Jerez. Visited two bodegas and hung about there. Learned a load about sherry. Did Seville as well. So yeah, it's a nice little 2 week break, mate.
Sounds very civil.
It was very civil. I enjoyed it very much.
So, do you know why they say Jerez and not Jerez?
Tell me, is
So
it
it's
because of the Hershey's chocolate?
no, it's not. This is a bit of, I mean, to be fair, I don't really know how true this is, but no, I've heard this before. I think it's a bit of an urban legend. But there was a Spanish king at one point that had a lisp and pronounced places and things with the lisp, and it was Jerez. And people wanted to speak like the king's English or not embarrass him, so everybody started to speak in the same way. So
I
that's
reckon a
why they
Spaniard was winding you up.
did.
Can
You
can
can
anyone write into the show to fact check that for us, please,
you
if they know
can
that's true?
it's a whole thing. You can look it up. You can actually look it up. There's a whole. I'm sure it's complete um nonsensical, but it's from Latin American countries. So Latin American countries don't do that. They say Jerez
Yeah.
and they say Barcelona, not Barcelona.
There you go. Every day's a school day. You're on Not
Yeah.
Another Whiskey podcast. That's cool, man. That's cool. I actually went for lunch as well with our good friend Charlie McLean the other day. That
Oh,
was
very
fun.
nice.
Boozy
Did
lunch round at his flat.
I'm guessing he picked up the tab.
Well, we're round at his flat. We're pouring out some
Yeah.
whiskies, and then well, we started off as always with Negronis, which is always fun, and then we
Mhm.
moved on to some whiskies. Then we went out for a bit of lunch, and yeah, by about 3-4 o'clock, it was pretty much game over for me.
Very nice.
That was good.
And then you just went
Fun times.
straight into thinking up jokes for this podcast.
That's all I do, mate. That's all I do.
Oh man, I didn't even get to do it. I did hear. I know people have been sending me stuff, but I was going through my old back catalogue of crappy jokes and things that are funny. Here's a good one for you. What do you call a deaf country singer?
Go on.
Dolly Parton. Awful.
Brilliant.
All
Right,
right.
listen, we got a lot to get through on this episode, mate. This is not just a catch-up episode. We've got a load of news to run through as well. We've got guess the distillery piece as well. We've got a new distillery for you guys to guess this week, and we're going to reveal Nicholas's last guess the distillery. But first off, I sat down with Ardray now to talk about this very new brand or new blend of Scotch whiskey that's come on the market. So this was our sit down. This was our chat all about it. We have Stephanie Peck, who is the UK Ardray ambassador, on the show with us today, along with Calum Fraser, the master blender. Guys, thank you so much for your time and welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on with you today, Mitch.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you know, I'm interested to delve into the world of Ardray with you guys. I got lucky enough to sent a little bottle quite a while back, so I've been sipping on it for some time now. But Steph, I'm going to start with you here, if you don't mind. So you're journey to Ardray is quite fascinating. I suppose into the whiskey world in general. You've transitioned from acting into hospitality and now a whiskey ambassador, right? Which is pretty cool. Quite a diverse background. So I suppose, how does that background shape your approach in introducing Ardray to customers, bartenders, when you're out and about chatting about the brand?
Yeah, you've done your research, Mitch.
A little bit. We try on this show. We try.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I guess it's been, I think everyone who works in this industry, the stories to get where they are is always varied and interesting. It's part of what the people are, part of what makes this industry, I think, so interesting. But yeah, I think for me as a brand ambassador, the sort of history of the acting, it's just, it all links back to storytelling, right? And so that ability to kind of bring those skills of storytelling from my old life of acting and bring it into the new life of being able to share whiskey stories is really helpful. And yeah, the hospitality in between, of course, helps you get to know the industry that you're in, and cocktails and trade and everything like that. So yeah, it all relates. Well, that's what I tell my parents that spent so much money on drama school.
I know, right? That's always the tough thing. My mom was always like that. So what do you do again? You're a whiskey ambassador. What does that exactly involve? I'm like, I remember the one time I took her to this really fancy restaurant, and it was great because I'd done a load of staff training there, and all the staff came over, and the chef came out, and the GM, and I was like, see, this is what I do. She's like,
Yeah.
all right. So, but let me ask you, I mean, you just look after the UK, I'm correct in saying that. Is your focus mostly consumer based, or is it bartender led? How's that job working out?
You know what? It's really varied. I think with a brand new brand like Ardray, we're right at the very start. It's only been in market for, is it 7 months, I think now, Calum? It's still super new. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything, which is great for me. I love just meeting new people. So I do support a lot of the sales team who are doing sell-ins and trying to share it with new on-trade venues as well. I've started to do bit more consumer facing ones as well, so different tastings there. So yeah, really varied at the moment on this first sort of year of Ardray. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, I think that's the main thing, as long as you're enjoying it, right?
Oh, absolutely. How can you not?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Calum, I want to come on over to you. You've been in the whiskey industry now for 12 years, I believe. Am I right in saying that?
Just over 13.
Just over 13. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So I didn't go to drama school. I don't do acting. I can't sing or anything like that. So my background is probably the polar opposite to Steph's. Very science background. So chemistry was my thing, my favourite subject. And did that at university, first doing forensic and analytical chemistry for my undergraduate. So I almost call that my CSI phase. Been very interested in forensic science. And then over time, I became, because it was a multidisciplinary chemistry degree at Strathclyde University, I then started to get more interested in pharmaceuticals, so synthetic organic chemistry, which entered me into my Breaking Bad phase, which led to me doing a PhD in synthetic organic chemistry. And I very much thought I would work in the pharmaceutical sector with the white coat on, making drugs to benefit people, not the illegal kind or anything like that. For the record, not the Breaking Bad kind at all. But for a few reasons, in around 2011, I decided to look into different industries. My PhD and my undergraduate probably gave me a lot of soft skills which were quite transferable, and I ended up getting an interview at Diageo for the blending team there, and it became quite apparent that through working in chemistry labs surrounded by various chemicals for the best part of 10 years, I was exposed to various aromas that the chemicals gave off. So, there's a natural overlap to whiskey with the natural, products and smells and compounds that they have, that I was able to identify and articulate and distinguish different types of aroma from each other. So I ended up working in there, Diageo, alongside Jim Beveridge, the very well-renowned master blender for Johnny Walker, and that started my love affair with Scotch whisky. And as a boy from Kilmarnock, getting to work in Johnny Walker is my first kind of brand amongst others. Was it was a real privilege and joy for as the boy from Kilmarnock getting to work on Johnny Walker for a small period of time. So I started in there. Primarily worked with other great master blenders such as Sandy Hislop, Gordon Motion, Kirstine Campbell at other companies, Chivas Brothers and Edrington, with a small period of time working in production as well. But working with those characters, being exposed to tremendous portfolios of different companies, single malts, single grains, but also blends, which obviously Ardray is one of those. It really gave me a lot of skills and made me appreciate how to create whiskies and develop recipes with the inventory you're given. That led to me close on 2 years ago, April 2022, to getting the job as master blender for the Scotch portfolio for Beam Suntory. So real honour and real privilege to be working with a suite of great brands, single malts such as Bowmore and Lafroig, and blends such as Teachers, and now we're in the very fortunate position of having the new member of the family, Ardray, and very much working alongside our Japanese colleagues in the development of that whisky. So yeah, it's been a very quick 13 years, but it's been a very fruitful one, and I've been very fortunate with the people I've worked alongside in that time to get to where I am today.
Now, Calum, you said you didn't go to drama school, but I don't know if Steph told you this. When we get a master blender on, they have to do a song and dance as part of the show, and we do video it. So
okay, good. Okay, we'll do that offline
well,
and send you. Okay.
Fantastic. We'll get that on the Instagram page going there. I think before we dig into Ardray here, I want to ask you, Calum, as the master blender for Beam Suntory, give us a little. I know you can't go into a load of details, but a little kind of sneak peek behind the curtain as to the whiskies that you have available to you.
Just in general, yeah, we're very fortunate. We have as Beam Suntory, we own 5 malt distilleries within Scotland, and produce from spirit from all of them, become whisky, and then our single malts in their own right. So arguably the most renowned are from Islay. We've got Bowmore, which is beautifully balanced with fruit and a medium peat level, which is some people know is linked with Aston Martin, and bottles of that now fetch 6-figure sums. So we are very much privileged to be dealing with really rare whiskies in that portfolio of a very high age. We also have Lafroig, which is very heavily peated in character and adored worldwide. I think every bar when I was in America, for example, in New York and LA, all had a bottle of either Lafroig Select or Lafroig 10 on the bar. So both globally renowned single malt brands. And we also have 3 other single malt whiskies on the mainland, which are tremendous in their own right. We have Auchentoshan, based near Glasgow, which is one of the few triple distilled single malt whiskies in Scotland. We have Ardmore, which is a phenomenal single malt, quite delicate and peat, which is also used as a signature within the Teachers blend that we have. And we also have Glengarry, which is very much a rising star. It's very one that I'm really looking forward to working with a fantastic whiskies within that as well. Recently, we've invested quite heavily within the distillery, reintroducing floor maltings, extending fermentation times, and also re-engineering direct fire distillation, which is very uncommon within the Scotch industry to not only have direct fire stills but re-engineer them back into the process is something else as well, and it makes a phenomenal new make distillate, which in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond time, I'm really looking forward to seeing what that becomes as well. So within the 5 distilleries that we own, they're all very different in character, but yeah, amazing to deal with.
They're amazing distilleries that you've just listed, and I was lucky enough to go up to Glengarry last year, actually, so I saw what you guys are doing up there. I suppose the only bad part of this is you've got to work with Daryl Haldane, though, right? I mean, that's the downfall here.
Yeah, we tolerate it. It's fine. No, Daryl's great, and he's a great advocate and ambassador for our brands, and he didn't pay me to say that. He truly is.
Yeah, no, well, it was him and I that started up this show. I don't know if you guys know that. But
No,
was
I didn't know.
I pulled him along. All right, Steph, I want to come over to you because I want to touch on a little bit about the marketing here of Ardray, and I think it's quite interesting because, you know, for me, having been in the Scotch whisky industry for quite a while now, I remember going back and one of the examples that I always use with Japanese whiskey is a good friend of mine who started working for Suntory way back in the day, and we were doing I'm talking like 2005 here. We were doing a whiskey festival together. And we were literally side by side, and no one was going anywhere near his stand. At the end, he was like, "Do you want some of this Yamazaki? Because I just can't shift." And I'm like, I think about that now, and it blows my mind. Right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, we all know the influence of Japanese whiskey. Well, I should say Scotch whiskey had on Japanese whiskey. It seems to be coming the other way around now, and this is a great example of that, right? So how do you talk about that story when you're talking about Ardray to customers, to bartenders?
Yeah, I think exactly right. I'm always referencing the fact that, you know, it's 100 years. Last year was the 100th anniversary of Suntory, so it was kind of a nice bookend of them, you know, being inspired 100 years ago by Scotland and the excellence of Scotch, but to create you know, a whiskey that was for their climate, their palate, their environment, and a link to what was right for that sort of Japanese culture. And then obviously 100 years later, I think now, especially Suntory, which is obviously the collaboration we have with the blenders in Japan, they have become so known for the art of blending that they've sort of honed over these 100 years. Hibiki being the sort of obvious one to sort of reference, really. It just feels like this next, like you say, next stage in the story of both the Suntory relationship with Scotland, but also, I guess, where we are in the wider kind of world of whiskey, of us all being inspired by each other and different chapters and different discussions. You know, there's amazing things happening with New World whiskey at the moment, and also in Scotch blends as a category, there's some really exciting things happening as well. You know, amazing other names like Woven and Turntable and things like that. And so I think overall, I think whiskey consumers are curious, I guess, and I think Ardray just perfectly fits into that, really.
Very cool. And, you know, there might be some people listening here that haven't heard of Ardray before. What's your elevator pitch to them on the brand? How do you sell it to someone?
I honestly just try and get them to try it as quick as possible, because I do think people have lots of preconceptions about Scottish blends, and I think, or I should say, there are a good section of people that have preconception about Scottish blends, and I personally think that's a real shame. I think if you completely dismiss a category, you have so many amazing just flavors and enjoyment and experiences that you're going to miss out on. So I think it's a real shame when people just dismiss a category anyway. So I very quickly just try and get them to try it, because I think whiskey is made to be enjoyed. And after that, it really is just trying to shine a light on blending, on the skill of blenders, the artistry of that. You know, bringing all these complex flavors together from right across Scotland, of all these amazing distilleries, and having that skill to be able to bring the complex flavors together and create something that's kind of greater than the sum of its parts. Not to, you know, put too much praise on Calum. He is just there, but it's an incredible skill, and I think people forget about quite how hard it is, really.
No, it is, absolutely, and I'm with you. I think there is a big comeback of the blends. Not that I think they've ever gone away, but I think what I'm seeing now is people that had that snobbery before are definitely coming back to them. There's a lot more interest. There's a lot more funky brands. You mentioned some of them out there, and you guys definitely fit within that realm as well. Calum, question to you. I mean, you know, you've been blending Scotch whiskey for a long time now, and you've been working predominantly with Scottish teams. When we talk about Ardray, we talk about this Japanese influence, and you working with the guys over in Japan. How is that? Was that quite a natural thing to do? I suppose that was something that you've been doing for a long time, or was this something that you started doing with Ardray?
Yeah, no, it's the first time collaborating with a team other than a Scotch whiskey making team. So yeah, I mean the Ardray development was 3 years to get from start to where we landed on. A lot of blends and whiskies and iterations, recipes, etc. shared between continents in the blending room in Yamazaki that I was very privileged to spend time with Shinji and the team there, and also here in Glasgow as well. So, it's a true collaboration, and I think the first true collaboration between a Scotch and Japanese whiskey making team in the creation of a Scotch whiskey.
How do you think that influence affected the flavour?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, the ultimate aim of Ardray was to create a fresh perspective on what has, is a category that's been in place for, well over 100 years with various brands and various blenders in between making their own creations. So, it wasn't an easy feat to do because there's a lot of really good stuff that's gone before. But we looked to create something that was subtle, refined, yet complex in character. So very much something that we wanted to, on the nose, on the mouthfeel and aftertaste, all delivered in terms of experience. So it was really about creating something that was really smooth and elegant in the palate, but every time you come back and have another sip, the flavour just continues to evolve and almost take you in different directions. It's got a wonderful palette or range of fresh fruit, orchard fruit, elements of citrus fruit, rich fruit, and layers of different peaty characters going on in there. Yet it's really smooth and really silky sweet because of the grain, which does play a really important role in bringing everything together.
I know when it comes to blends, master blenders are always very secretive about what they're using. And you've probably been asked this question a million times before, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Are there any single malts grains that you are allowed to talk about at all within this blend?
Not specifically. However, I will try and give you something, Mitch. Don't worry. We've been very fortunate. Ultimately, for batch one, for the first release that we brought out and shared in China, and Shanghai, New York, Los Angeles, and London last year, was in the context of blends relatively simple in terms of the number of distilleries we had. We had 11 in the first batch. That may vary depending on what getting that continuity and consistency and flavour. But we're really of the belief that it's all about getting the flavour and complexity right. So in this case, less was more. We didn't have to throw 30, 40 different distilleries into the recipe. Within the fantastic inventory that I've got here, we've been very fortunate that we've got obviously the Beam Suntory inventory to lean on, and we talked about that before, the likes of having the access to Bamore, Lafroig, Auchentoshan, Ardmore peated, Ardmore unpeated, and Glengarry. For Ardray, we did have access to some of the fantastic Edrington single malts, of which Glenrothes, Highland Park, and the very well-renowned Macallan were three there. So we had access to those two sources of inventory, as well as some third-party single malts that we had, and grain whiskies as well. So I don't think I've quite answered your question, but we did have access to some, fantastic whiskies, all that have their own unique, different flavour that we could play tunes on, and it took 3 years to get there to get something that just had the flavour style and experience that we wanted.
I'm going to change. We always say that's very like a politician's answer. I'm going to change that to it's a master blender's answer now, because you guys are very but I get it. I understand that you want to keep your blends secret and all that kind of stuff. So I get it. But that's very cool. How do you go about? Talk us through your process, Calum, when you're putting a blend together. How hard do you find it? I mean, for me, it's like a lot of people have often likened crafting blended whiskey to like a fine piece of art. So do you have anything that kind of inspires you when you start, or is it just basically like I'm looking at the casks, I'm nosing everything, pulling it together and knowing where I'm going to get to?
Yeah, there's a bit, there's the magic and the art which we come to, but the foundation, because we ultimately know through the demand out there through the markets, etc. How many bottles or 9-litre cases, to be less romantic, that people were looking to bottle. So we have to make sure that whatever we create is in line with fulfilling the forecast and the demand out in the marketplace. So we have to make sure that we're in the context that we can produce it at the right volume to support the demand. And to be honest, for Ardray, usually the less volume the better for us, because it's less cash for us to have to go and explore. So, you know, as we touched on at the start, we've only released this to select markets or cities: London, Shanghai, Los Angeles, and New York. So it was quite a small volume. But once we get into that, we start to bring in casks and, you know, individually nose, and then start to build components and building blocks and style. And what we did for Ardray, which was, I'm not going to say it's unique, but it's very much a nod to how things were traditionally done, was we actually created building blocks on the bench, a blended grain building block, a blended American oak ex-bourbon seasoned barrel building block, which was quite fruity and delicate in character, a sherry seasoned European oak building block, which was really rich, cinnamon, raisins, slight nuttiness, like Christmas cake almost in a glass type building block, and a peaty American oak ex-bourbon barrel matured elements. So 4 elements there. And that was just naturally, that's how we found the different whiskies came together. You had 4 different building blocks and 4 different sources of a great array of flavour. And then we just played tunes on that. So, you know, looking at, you know, high grain level blends, or, you know, one that was more richer in character, one that was smoky in character. Just played tunes on that, percentage by percentage, drop by drop, really to just see where the flavour style and, you know, the balance was landing. And eventually, sounds easy, 4 building blocks, but 3 years later, we got to that balance and that flavour style and profile that we thought fitted Ardray.
And then, Steph, I want to move away from the blending side of things here a little bit and move on to more the drinking side of things, because you're an ambassador and that's what you do. How are you drinking Ardray? And, you know, what have you seen, obviously, when you're going around bars, speaking to bartenders, what have you seen them doing? I think you guys have got a couple of signature serves with this as well, right? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, it goes without saying that all whiskey should be drank however the whiskey drinker wants to drink it. Number one, you know, water, ice, long, short, in a cocktail, however you want. Definitely experiment with it. With Ardray, it's been really exciting because it is so new. Being able to talk to bartenders and really, I guess, dig into their knowledge and their creativity and what they sort of want to create with it, which is really fun. Really interestingly, on blind taste, a lot of the people who get quite snobby about blends and think, oh no, I don't drink blends, in a blind lineup where against some single malts and more heritage blends and things like that, Ardray never gets picked out as a blend, which it's all part of this kind of challenge and preconceptions of category, really, which I think is really interesting. I think a couple of kind of the, I guess, statistics about it. It's bottled at 48% ABV. It's non-chill filtered. It's all natural in color. So all these kind of credibility points, it seems, you know, kind of to say, but they're kind of more associated maybe with single malts rather than the kind of more heritage blends. So I think that kind of helps challenge preconceptions. So yeah, people are enjoying it neat or with a drop of water or however they prefer to have it, kind of slightly shorter. Interestingly, when people are bartenders have been experimenting long, they have kind of wanted to do a sort of nod to the Japanese link. So there's been a lot of kind of experimenting with the kind of highball serve, but rather than a highball, sort of Mizuwari style. So kind of doing a sort of cold brew tea, something like that, and having it longer that way as well. But I think with blends, because there are these layers of flavor, it allows that experimentation, right? You can lean more into the smoky character of it. You can lean more into those orchard fruits. You could bring the citrus, you know, dial that up. So yeah, it's been really fun to sort of see them experiment. One thing that we bring into our tastings quite a lot is we have a serve called Off the Rocks. And this is about sort of getting consumers to experiment about what they enjoy. If you want to add a little bit of water or ice or whatever, off the rocks is essentially where you are pouring the dram over a sort of a sphere of ice. So it does have contact with the ice, which is going to add some chill and some dilution. But how quickly you pour that is obviously going to let you experiment with how much chill or dilution. So it kind of, is allowing the consumer to kind of experiment with what they enjoy, really.
So just so I can get that clear in my head. So you're literally pouring over ice, but not leaving the ice in the glass. Am I right in saying
Exactly, yeah. We've got these cute little strainers which kind of sit on top of the glass, and then you it's easiest obviously with one of those larger spheres, and then you can pour it over, and it just kind of pours over the ice and then into the glass. So yeah, it's really lovely, and it's really lovely to sort of do it with people, like I say, and get them to experience how they enjoy it, really.
I think question to both of you guys here: what do you see the future of Ardray? How do you see it evolving, both within the industry, serving it to bars, and also as liquids? As from you guys personally, how do you see the brand evolving? Where would you like to see it go?
For me, for the at least the first iteration of Ardray, we want to make sure it's a resounding success. So, hopefully the sky is the limit in terms of we can move beyond the 4 cities that I talked about earlier to share it, and it can be, it can be enjoyed globally. Because I truly think within, working for, Beam Suntory, the ability to share best practice and collaborate with other parts of our whiskey making business, in this case the Japanese blending team, has been a real joy, and it's not something that every blender in Scotland can get that experience to do, or bring those meetings of minds together. So I'd really like to see for this first first release, or the first in the Ardray family, that it's a resounding success globally, and then the demand to maybe have some follow-ups will follow.
£50 for a bottle of non-age statement blended whiskey. Does this price point customers out of joining into the world of Scottish blends, especially as competitors start at £30 or so?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I can only talk about the flavors and characters, and what's literally the liquid inside the bottle. So non-aged, I know it's something that could be a great debate over several weeks, I think, if you wanted to have that, and that's before you go into blends versus single malts. And I get all the all the discussions on both sides of the fence, but I'm a whiskey drinker, first, pure and simple. Whether it's single malts, single grains, or blends, they're all, they can all be fantastic. And for me and Steph, Ardray is an example of something that's fantastic. In this one, because we've got the non-age statement on the label, we have the ability to use whiskies of a variety of ages to build the complexity and characters. In this first batch, we're using whiskies from 3 different decades. We have that ability to do that. In terms of blends, we're not hung on using spirit from one, or whiskey from one specific distillery. We've got access to, as I talked about, an army of different distilleries, all of which have their own unique character and grains that really can bring complexity that single malts can't, as well. So for me, blends, definitely have their place, sitting side by side with single malts within the industry, and that's why you should spend your hard-earned money on Ardray.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're gonna head off here shortly, but before we go, where can people find out information about yourselves, about Ardray?
So you can find Ardray at ardray.com, and obviously, that will tell you more about Ardray, about the story, and things like that. Obviously on Instagram, you can find at Ardray Whisky, and I am at Steph Peck on Instagram. So if anyone wants to chat on there, reach out.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I look forward to, I've still got quite a bit of my Ardray left, so I need to tuck into that, and look forward to seeing you guys in the flesh for a dram at some point soon.
Yes, please.
That'd be great.
bit of banter, catching up with those guys. I'm sorry I missed that interview. It would have been really interesting and exciting to be a part of that. I think there's loads of interesting things to be said to all of this, and I think as the world is expanding, especially around the guys at Beam Suntory, obviously world blending and lending their Japanese whiskey chops into a lot of the other stuff that they're doing is going to be prevalent as they continue to move forward and create new whiskies and put new world whiskies and blends and things like that together.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, man. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to be catching up with Steph tomorrow, actually, because we sit down and do our Whiskey Talks Edinburgh session, which is looking massive. We've got over 90 RSVPs for this. We've got some incredible speakers, including our friend Dr. Rachel Barry is coming along for one of the talks.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a series of talks that we're putting together, and Edinburgh like literally booked up within 2 days. So we had those RSVPs. So we're moving into, as soon as we finish this tomorrow, Glasgow is next on the list, which is going to be May the 14th. So if you guys are interested in that, check it out on coppercairn.com. You can RSVP. It is a free event. We haven't released the guests for this yet, but it's going to be equally impressive. And then Nicholas, we chatted as well about coming over to New York with this next year as well. So that'll be get some Shibui on there.
Can't wait, brother. Should we do some catch up on some of the things that have been happening in the news around the whiskey world?
Let's do it.
Cool. Well, first and foremost, back to a little topic that you and I like, mate. Whiskey cask investment. Now, I guess with all the shenanigans and nonsense that was going on around whiskey cask investment, a couple of pretty good dudes in the industry got together. So Philippe Schreiberg and Mark Littler, who just picked up a different whiskey publication out here in the States as well, but they've joined forces to create protectyourcask.com, which is an online resource offering information on safely purchasing and owning a cask of Scotch whiskey and guidance to minimize the risk of buyers becoming victims of fraud. So this comes on the heels of a couple of things really happening. Obviously, the UK's Advertising Standards Authority, ruling against cask investment companies and really creating some kind of stricter enforcement notices around what they can and can't publicize about their return on investment, as well as then the Cask Whisky Association coming together as well, which was, in my mind, a complete and utter nonsense around what this should, it's a necessary thing to happen, and I agree with many people that there is a necessity for this to happen. I think it is absolutely in the remit of the Scotch Whisky Association, and I will continue to champion for the Scotch Whisky Association to please stand up and do this job, because it is not part of what they do now. It is absolutely something they should do. It is great to see independent private people coming together with casks, programs like Protect Your Cask, in order to give people guidance. So it's good that this is happening. I think it's another great resource out there, and kudos to the two chaps for doing this. Mark's a good dude, and so is Philippe, and I believe that they have got the best interests of the industry at heart, which is also excellent to see. And anything really just to kind of drown out the ridiculous noise of Cask Whisky Association and have that fuck off for as long as humanly possible. That would be my ultimate goal.
But it's to your point, mate. It's crazy that individuals like this, great on and Philippe and Mark, like you said, for organizing it. But the fact that they have to go out and do it and feel that they have to do it, and the SWA isn't taking it on, still blows my mind. I mean, why are they not getting involved in this? We need to get them on the show. We need to have this conversation.
Yeah.
We're going to sit down with our good friend John Laurie and bring him back on and really kind of dig into this, hopefully with the SWA as well, and get their view on it. So that episode is in the works as we speak right now. But moving on to other news that's kicking around, something that's very close to my heart, which is our Whisky Foundation. So they've partnered up with Whisky Auctioneer to launch the Demeter collection, which is the world's first auction dedicated to women in whiskey. Now, I've chatted about our Whisky Foundation before. I've been a mentor on this program for the last 4 years. I'm a big advocate of it. Their whole program that Becky's put together is fantastic. And this is another part of it that she's done an amazing job on. So the name is named after the Greek goddess of grain. And it's going to feature a curated selection of rare and unique releases, all of which have been crafted and inspired by the industry's most talented women. And there's some amazing bottles in here. So the auction's going to run from the 29th of March to the 8th of April on whiskyauctioneer.com. And funds raised from the auction, including the auctioneer's buyer's fee, will be donated to our Whisky Foundation in support of their work that they're doing, including their mentorship program, which is great to see. So a total of 18 lots have come out for this, and highlights include a 31-year-old blend from House of Hazelwood. There is also the Loch Lomond Sonata collection and a 44-year-old bottling of Dalmore, which is pretty impressive. Now, the only thing that I've seen so far from this, Nicholas, is the 20-year-old Ardbeg. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was created by their master blender, Gillian MacDonald, to celebrate 20 years in the industry by her. So a really cool bottling, actually,
Yeah, I did
of
see that.
Ardbeg.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how this does. Be great to get Becky on the show. You know, she's a big fan of the show. We've had her on quite a few times. So
Yep.
I think after this auction passes, we get some feedback from her and get her
100%.
back on here.
Love that. Love that. Congratulations in advance. It's fantastic. The work that those guys are doing is incredible. So really great to see. On other exciting news, speaking of cool things going on in the biz, Scotch whisky exports have topped £5.6 billion in 2023. So the Scotch Whisky Association revealed that the exports are up 14% by value last year when compared to 2019 figures. So it's pretty interesting. And I like the fact that they're going back a little bit historically. You can't start. It's a weird one to do. I wouldn't be comparing 2021 to 2022 to 2023. I think you get an unrealistic read of what the industry is capable of doing, predominantly because in 2022 the volume exceeded £6 billion, so it was $7.5 billion for the first time. But so compared to 2022, the numbers look like they're down. But the reality of it is that during COVID, everything was going mental, and countries around the world were buying in more whiskey than was necessary for depletions. So they were almost like stocking up and filling. Wholesalers were filling up their warehouses, distributors were filling up their warehouses, and all the rest of it. So this is a better read to look at 5.6 billion in 2023. It looks like still strong growth numbers across the board compared to 2019, which is pre-pandemic, and exports are up 14% by value and 3% by volume comparatively. So I think it's pretty interesting stuff. Looking at some of the kind of top exports by market, Asia Pacific continues to be the largest regional market by value. So exports to China totaling £235 million, and we're 165% up on 2019. Singapore also saw double-digit growth. US remains to be, as you would imagine, Mitch, one of the largest national markets by value and volume as well. Exports totaling 978 million. However, that is a slight decline on 2022, which doesn't shock me because the USA, with a hands-on experience in this, I watched the market load up on inventory, so that doesn't shock me. There was a lot of different things that kind of hit from 2019 onwards. Remember Donald Trump's tariffs on Scotch whisky and all that other nonsense that started to go in, so that all took in effect and stuff like that as well. And then they were suspended for 5 years up into 2021, so that gave a bit of reprieve. And then France was also the largest national market by volume, importing 174 million bottles in 2023, which is down, believe it or not, 15% on 2022. But like I said, that shouldn't be a shock, but it's up 4% from 2019. So pretty interesting stuff. I think it's good to see what the market's capable of. Every second, 43 bottles of Scotch whisky are shipped. Every
Incredible,
second.
right?
It's fucking brilliant, actually. Like, see me, I mean, there's nothing you can do 43 times in 1 second, Mitch, right?
You're right.
Aye.
No, I think
every listener out there knows exactly what you just did with your hand there, just to be clear.
I think the interesting thing about this is you go back, you were just chatting about France. France got knocked off the podium by India. Remember last year? India went to the top, and now
coming.
they've regained that top spot again, which is interesting to see. But so big bombshell that kind of dropped within the whiskey world. I don't know if there's a big bombshell for everyone, but John Glacier from Compass Box decided to step down from Compass Box after 23 years. So he launched Compass Box in 2000. And, when I think about Compass Box, I think about a brand that really broke the mold, both with regards to marketing, with regards to the liquid they were putting in, being very transparent as to what the blend was. Actually got them in trouble a few times as well. But John has said that he's going to depart his role from the company in May. So what are we in right now? Yeah, he's got another couple of months left, but he'll remain a shareholder in the company. He says, after an extraordinary 23-year journey, I've made the decision to step away from Compass Box. This decision wasn't an easy one, but I firmly believe that now is the right time to pass on the reins to the new management and embark on fresh endeavors in my career.
Ready for this one, Mitch? Good morning, Vietnam! Guess where this next whiskey's from? So, Hanoi-based distillery VDD has released private casks of its single malt from Vietnam. So this is co-founder Michael Rosen was kind of telling the local press in Hanoi that in order, obviously this is to generate cash flow as they continue to build their distillery and do all these other kind of fun stuff. But these guys are in the tropics or subtropics. They are distilling in hot and humid temperatures, and they're making some really cool stuff. They've started to produce malt whiskey, and there is an opportunity for you now to buy your own cask of Vietnamese single malt. So for $5,900 or £4,684 plus $10 per bottle bottling fee, you can kind of lay down your new fill liquid of malt whiskey into the barrels. Going to yield anywhere from about 180 to 270 bottles depending on the ABV and the duration of the aging. And it gives you
Sorry, mate. What's the distillery called again?
So don't make me do this. VDD. VDD.
It's a weird one, isn't it?
It's, I don't know, I don't speak Vietnamese, so I'm looking at it and written down. It's there's a lot of accents and amazing. I mean, it's a beautiful looking language. This is the most. I'll give them that. Do you know what I mean? It just looks fantastic. But as somebody who can barely speak English, I'm going to butcher my way through this. So my sincere apologies.
Right. So moving on to the last section, Nicholas. What distillery am I? You did the last one here. I mean,
I know.
Let's go through the clues again.
You've already.
We said we were going to make. We said we were going to make this harder. We said we were going to make this harder.
It's the one clue. You told me this when I said it. You're like, you're a dick. You should have kept that one clue out. It would have made, like, I get it. So the clues, to recap people out there, was this distillery is one of the oldest in Scotland. It dates back to 1779. This distillery was opened and closed throughout its history, like most in Scotland are, but at one time played host to an RAF command unit for almost the entire duration of World War II. Had I left it there, that might have been trickier. But then I said, the heat waste of this distillery is used to warm a local public swimming pool, which was actually built inside one of its distillery's old warehouses. And then everybody got the answer. Did anybody get it wrong, Mitch? That's an easier way, right?
No, I mean, normally at this point we read out, all the comments from Instagram of everyone who got it right. But honestly, there was too many, Nicholas. Okay. So you made that way too fucking easy.
Fine.
But hey, the gauntlet's laid down, right? So there's prison rules now with regards to this.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not teeing this up anymore for you guys.
It was Bowmore. Fine, you all got it. Next. Right, Mitch?
Next.
Let's fuck with
Right,
him.
so let's do this one. This one's hopefully going to be a little bit trickier for everyone. So the story of this distillery began in 2012. It has a view over to a famous Scottish island, and it has a female owner. That's your three clues. Now, I was going to repeat them, but, if you want to hear them again, just rewind the podcast. You listen to a fucking podcast.
Gauntlet down. Well, Mitch, that was good to catch up with you. Sorry about my occasional coughs throughout the show. Still,
right,
obviously, the remnants of bronchitis taking its toll.
Mate, I've got a pet already. I've got Isla, right? So we've decided to get another pet, and I wanted to get a pet termite. I was going to call him Clint. Clint Eatswood.
Fucking hell. Oh.
So
man.
I went to the doctor the other day. I lost 3 fingers on my right hand. So I asked my doctor if I'd still be able to write with it. He said maybe, but I wouldn't count on it.
Oh, that's pretty bad, mate. That's pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. Let's kill it there, but not before we go. I mean, obviously, guys, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode. Just a little reminder as well to check out our live episode that we are going to be doing for Spirit of Speyside. Go to the Spirit of Speyside Whisky Festival website, type in podcast or Not Another Whiskey podcast, and get yourself one of the few remaining tickets that we're going to do for this. This is going to be the Battle of the Ambassadors. We've got some amazing ambassadors coming down. We've got 4 of them, world-class ambassadors, keepers of the Quake. These guys are all award-winning ambassadors within their own right. Some of them have just made up that award, but that's okay. We're fine with that. They're going to bring down some amazing liquid as well. You guys are going to sit, drink it, decide which one is the best. All the money is going to go to charity as well. So Murray Food Plus, we're supporting that charity. So you're supporting a great charity and doing that. Like I say, we literally have a handful of these tickets left. So get yourself on that website and have a look. Have a look at some of the other amazing events that are going on for Spirit of Speyside as well. Definitely worth a look as a festival.
Cool. Well, Mitch, as always, great to catch up. We will be back next week with another fantastic episode of Not Another Whiskey podcast. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, like us on Instagram, like us wherever you're getting this podcast. It means a lot to us as a little group, making sure we can get our noise out there. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.